Kia ora, welcome to Canterbury Live. It is Wednesday the 30th of July and another gold for Canterbury girl Sophie Pascoe. She is fantastic. Well done to her and of course to her family, a great achievement. We have a wonderful show. We're covering all spectrums really. First up though, or at the end of the show we're meeting Tony Gard. Now she is an athlete of a different sort. It is pole fitness, so I look forward to hearing all about that. And we head out on location to Rangiora Vet. We're talking about anaesthetic and with Brandy the dog. Brave dog he is. But first up, I'm just going to read you a little bit of a poem here that I think you'll love. The matrix of our lives forever brutally desiccated, yet shining points remain intact and visible. Upon the grid of pain, infinite courage, unparalleled compassion, in a beautiful symmetry, strong axis of love, steady our shaky hearts again as this disintegrated city in fragments and fractions is somehow remade into a greater whole. The author of that and of our book today is Melissa Parsons. Thank you, Melissa, for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
That's all right, and that's only a small part of a poem that you have written, but this is indeed your first book.
That's correct.
Right? And this is Rubble to Resurrection.
Correct. Yes.
Excellent. So it's about the churches responding to the Canterbury quakes. And as we know, churches have always, whatever your religious belief is, they are sort of like a stone or rock for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would agree. Yes, absolutely. A lot of, I guess, what we saw in the aftermath of the quakes was that churches had been damaged and some of those stones had fallen over. But being part of a local church community, I just knew that the stories were so much deeper than that, and that there was a groundswell of community response from within the churches as well that was really helping out in the community. Yeah, so I really wanted to put those stories together in some way and make it available to people to read, this little bit of church history in our city.
So how long has this journey been from writing the book?
From when I first got the idea in November 2011, but I started in earnest in my research in May 2012, and the book just came out in May this year. So I call it about a 2-year research process, basically.
Which in fairness is quite quick really, isn't it? Because a book can be quite a long process with the research and so forth.
Well, with this being my first, I guess I didn't know completely what I was in for, so I just jumped in boots and all. Yeah, so I'm really grateful for all the cooperation and the help that I've had from all the churches and the pastors and ministers and secretaries who helped make this possible. So yeah, between us we managed to get the stories together into this book.
Let's talk about some of the unique stories now, Melissa. Can you share some with us?
Sure. Well, I think that most people would probably know the story of the New Brighton Welfare Centre, which was operated partly out of the Grace Vineyard Church out there. But there were also other churches in other suburbs which did amazing work. The Parklands Baptist Church and the Burwood Christian Centre and the Worship Centre in Aranui. They all had a kind of a hub going that served people food and gave away needed supplies. So they were really onto it. There were amazing initiatives, the REE, the Rangiora Earthquake Express, that people know a lot about too. Out of the core team of 5, 4 of those were members of local churches out in Rangiora, different denominations that banded together and helped sort of spearhead the team approach there. And obviously heaps and heaps of people in the community came and volunteered and worked together. That was one of its real successes, I think, that everybody banded together to really make that work well. Probably one of the untold stories of the response is that the Latimer Square Responders Camp was served by the Plymouth Brethren Church, who sent their volunteers in, and for 9 days they provided meals round the clock for the international response teams and the Kiwi contingent as well. So yeah, I think along with a lot of other churches were just getting on with what needed to be done in front of them and didn't really want to blow their own trumpet too loudly. So yeah, I'm just really glad that I can have a go at pulling some of these stories together and making them more widely known. What else can I say? The Rangiora Baptist Church hosted a civil defence welfare centre overnight. The Chinese churches banded together and they put a free helpline together for the families of some of the Chinese victims who were coming over.
That's right.
Yep. The Anglican Church did a massive coordinated welfare door knock campaign. Over the last 3 years, I think they've visited something like 26,000 homes, and that's involved people from 9 different churches. So again, yeah, it's been really great to see how the cause bigger than themselves is the thing that actually drew the churches together, and churches that wouldn't have perhaps normally related together are kind of talking to each other in new ways now than they used to do before. And I think, that's one of the great things that can be said to have come out of this difficult time for all of us.
Do you think, especially after the research that you've completed, a lot of people going back to their faith after the quake? Did you find that?
Well, that was interesting. I did ask the question in the survey, and I think 4 out of the 95 churches said that that was specifically something they'd really noted as a result of the quakes. I think, I forget the exact stats, something like maybe 40% of churches had either remained the same or slightly grown.
Right.
I think the key research that answers that question is the one that came out of Victoria and Auckland University, Faith After Quakes. And I think they noticed in Canterbury there was a 3% increase, whereas there was a 0.9 decrease everywhere else. So, little signs that it really means that meant something to people to have a functioning church able to support them during the crisis time as well.
Some good signs.
Yeah.
What would you like the readers to take away from reading your book? I've written it to be accessible to anybody, whether they have a church background or not. So I hope that everybody would be blessed and encouraged in some way by reading the stories, just to understand that the interdenominational cooperation that happened and the way that partnerships between community and church congregations also happened. I think people have written letters to the editor sort of asking, what was the church doing kind of thing. So I hope that this would go some way to answer some of those questions. But I'd really also love it if churches around the country, other community organisations would be inspired, thinking, wow, this was what ordinary people in the pews in Christchurch did when they had to. We could do the same if something of the same magnitude or similar struck our community. I'd just really love it to serve as an inspiration and a guideline to other communities elsewhere, if they had to face it in the future. Not bad going for your first book to get all that
Thank
through.
you.
So well done to you, Melissa, and thank you very much. You've been very generous. And Melissa will be giving away one of her books today, Rubble to Resurrection. And all you need to simply do is call 03 3777 033. That's 3 777 033 to Marianne. Thank you, Melissa. All the very best to you. And